World, Florida. Dr. Narco Longo. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Magic. Welcome to Florida, baby. Florida is the original Garden of Eden. Florida has the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world. Florida oranges are the golden apples of mythology. A race of giant men once roamed this peninsula. The Smithsonian can suck my balls. Florida is littered with many ancient megalithic ship anchors, known as sacks or steamers. I'm bringing Sexa back. Noah's Ark was constructed out of gopher wood. Gopher wood only grows one place in the world, Florida. Florida is the birthplace of the United States. The first Thanksgiving was in Florida. Let the black drink flow. Orange man good. Clip his way out to Florida.
What's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. Hope you guys can hear me. Let us know if I sound good. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. I just closed the bookstore real quick, so let me double check some stuff.
Do I sound okay?
You sound good. What's up?
Cool. What's up, man? Yeah, you sound good on my end as well.
Okay, good.
Ready to
Cool,
talk
yeah.
some,
Seeing some thumbs up, so I think we're good.
good.
Well, happy Saturday, everyone. I'm at the Dancing Elephant bookstore, and tonight we're talking about the Planetary Rulerships and the Exaltations of the Zodiac. So this is a continuation of our Casting Couch astrology podcast. This is, I think, our third episode doing that. We're going to do it every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. So our first one was about the elements and the sub-elements of the Zodiac. Our second one was about the cross symbolism in the Zodiac and how that relates to the modalities. So fixed, cardinal, mutable. That's the last episode we did. Now we're doing the rulerships. And this series is a kind of an introductory astrology series. It's also for the somewhat adept and kind of a little bit initiated into some of the deeper astrology, especially the astrotheology side of things we like to focus on. And so if you don't know astrology, this is a great opportunity to learn basics. And we're going to try and take the basics as deep as we can at the same time. So before we get too deep into it, Merlin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's been a good day. I don't know if you guys seen the chart for the day, but we got a crazy grand trine going on. So, yeah, like things are looking real good for the next several days. We got a really cool new moon coming up, but my day in particular has been excellent, man. I hope yours has been too. Hope the chat has had a good day too.
Chill, yeah. Merlin looked pretty good on the thumbnail, didn't he? Right, guys? You like
I think
the thumbnail?
Longo carries the thumbnail, bro. Longo carries the thumbnail.
No. Kill that noise. Before we get started, also, we've got 2 super chats. Awakened One donated $19.99 or super sticker. Enjoy the super sticker. Thanks for that. And Zalero Morales, one of my biggest supporters. Good to see you. Thanks for the $10. And where's a good place to get started with this, Merlin?
I would say the sun. If you're cool with that, I would say let's start with the sun. Why Leo is the singular domicile of the sun, and then perhaps go outward from there.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about what like rulerships are and exaltations are, and then we'll start with the sun.
Sure.
What is a planetary rulership? So there's 12 signs of the zodiac. The 12 signs of the zodiac each have an element, right? So there we were going through the rhythm that the elements take: fire, earth, air, water. That rhythm repeats in the zodiac. Then there's the modalities, which is cardinal, fixed, mutable. That repeats in the zodiac 4 times, right? So this is a polyrhythm. If you're musically minded, you guys might know what a polyrhythm is. There's a polyrhythm going on in the zodiac, and it all syncs up after 12 beats, I guess you could call it. Now, the rulerships add another dimension to this. So we went through the elements, which is kind of the charge, the energy, the mood, right? The temperature of the sign is largely determined by the element. And then there's the modalities, which kind of tell you a little bit about like stubbornness, offensiveness, defensiveness, right? For example, Taurus being a fixed sign, being very hard to move, right? Being like a boulder. That's just an example. Well, what do the rulerships do? The rulerships, I think, bring a ton of personality to the signs. Everything else is kind of abstract, or it's kind of how would you say this? The elements, it's like saying someone's angry or hot or fiery rather than kind of telling their family history, right? You're just kind of painting a color on it. The rulerships kind of tell you the family history of the zodiac sign. So the rulerships really show why the signs are different, and signs that repeat the same element, why are they different from each other, right?
Yeah.
So each sign of the zodiac has a primary ruler, which means there's a planet. So pay attention to this. This is a big key point. If your introductory, information is limited, a rulership is a planet that essentially is like the patron planet of a sign, right? Like England has a patron saint. Greece has a patron saint. Who is it? George, Andrew. I forget. But
St. George. I think the St. George's Cross is big there right now.
Yeah. Or St. Nicholas, maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. Just a analogy there. But each sign of the zodiac has a patron planet. So just kind of to throw out some examples, we'll start with the sun, like Merlin said. The sun's considered a planet in astrology. The moon's considered a planet. So these are included. There's 7 major planets. There's 12 signs of the zodiac. Each one of the planets rules at least one sign of the zodiac. Some of them repeat. Some of them have 2 signs that they rule. So, yeah. How would you introduce rulerships?
Well, I would say that a sign being in its own rulership or domicile is like a man being in his own house. You're stronger in your house. You have more rights and protections in your house than you do outside of your house. And in your own house, you could be stronger under the law versus somebody that might have an advantage over you outside of your house. That's why yeah, like, Mars could be stronger than the sun, whereas the sun obviously overpowers Mars in the sky. But in the houses, in the domiciles, Mars could overpower the sun in certain ways, in certain configurations.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And that gets more down to the terminology of like domicile, right? So let's kind of go in order of the zodiac, and because that kind of does start with the sun, because we're talking about the exaltations too.
I've got 2 graphics ready to go if you want.
Okay, you got the rulerships.
Yeah,
visually?
the rulerships and exaltations visually. So if you want to
Okay.
share my screen, I could do either one that you wanted to go with.
Hell yeah. Rulerships first. This is rulerships.
Yeah, and then exaltations looks oh, hold on one second.
Nice.
Exaltations looks like that. So
Okay, perfect.
Back to domiciles. And when we say domiciles, it's also rulerships. Sorry, go ahead.
So rulerships, starting with Aries, we'll list them off, and then that'll help us explain it more. Aries is ruled by Mars. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Leo is ruled by the sun. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury. So pay attention. We just had our first repeat. Libra is ruled by Venus. Scorpio is primarily, conventionally, traditionally ruled by Mars. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Aquarius is traditionally ruled by Saturn. And Pisces is traditionally ruled by Jupiter. Now, let's go back through them and you'll see the flavor and the personality of the planet showing up in the zodiac sign. And I always like to say this: a zodiac sign is nothing without the planets. They're just combinations of hot, cold, dry, the elements, really, and modalities. Like I said, all the personality comes through from the planets, the family history, the genes of the zodiac signs. All the zodiac signs are like petri dishes. They get their traits because planets deposit them or lend them to those signs or encapsulate them into those signs, right? The planets rule forces more, and the signs kind of rule concepts and things and areas that receive those influences from the planets. So Aries is hot and fiery because it's ruled by, number one, because it's a fire sign, but also because it's ruled by Mars. So Mars is the hottest, most fiery planet. It's the god of war, right? It's the god of violence, you could say, bloodshed, competition. Some would say discipline, right? Bravery, things like that. That's all Aries. Aries is the god of war. Aries takes its name from Ares, the god of war, which is the Greek name for Mars. So right there, you're already kind of clued in on the connection just by the names, right? The names starting off with the first sign already help you establish a connection between Aries and its ruler, who simply goes by another name, Mars. Fire, ruled by fire. Taurus is an earth sign. It's ruled by Venus. Venus, some would say, rules earth. Many say it rules water. It's associated with water. It's certainly a humid and dense planet, and Taurus is a humid and dense sign of the zodiac. Venus rules love, beauty, cosmetics, vanity, and you see all those traits exhibited by Taurus, Tauresians, right? The earthiness, the humidity. This is why Tauruses tend to love to garden and work with plants. They have a green thumb, them in Cancer. So you're seeing the element certainly influences the sign, but the planet is so represented in the sign, especially at the beginning of the zodiac. It's clear cut. Gemini is all associated with the intellect, right? Breath, respiration, some would say, talking, communicating, speaking, articulation. Mercury is the planet that rules all that stuff, and Mercury rules Gemini. So they're kind of intuitive, especially at the beginning of the zodiac. Is there anything you want to say?
No, that's
Before I-
great. I mean, like when it comes to Venus and Taurus, gardens are so beautiful. Things on this earth, God's green earth is
Right.
such a beautiful creation. And of course, Venus rules that beauty. That's what gives Earth the beauty, is Venus.
Yeah. And if we double down on the etymology and the phonetics, with Aries, you see words like arise, right?
Yep.
You see words like arid, hot and fiery, scorched, right? Arid.
Ire.
Ire, iron. Yep.
Yep.
Totally. The Irish, right? Like red in the
Fiery
face,
red.
red hair, stuff like that. With Mars, martial, having to do with war, right? And Taurus, people might not see as many connections with Taurus. I say Taurus because people think you're saying tourist if you say
Mm.
Taurus. But Taurus, you'll never misspell restaurant in your life if you can memorize Taurus. Because Taurus rules restaurants. Tauruses love to eat and rest. Okay, like cows, right? You go to a restaurant, you act like a cow, right? Restaurant, you'll never misspell it ever again because of Taurus. And from Venus, we get words like vanity, right? Gemini. How do we say this? The word mini is in Gemini. Mercury's the smallest planet. Geminis, they're not always small people, but some of the smallest people are Geminis, right? They tend to kind of be nimble and quick rather than big and clumsy, right?
Yeah.
So moving on, Cancer is ruled by the moon. You take the next three. I did those three. You talk about Cancer and how the rulership, how the moon shows up.
So Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the nature fits perfectly because they both have a very watery nature. And Cancer is the first cardinal sign, which is also called a movable sign. Cardinal signs are all about movement. And people think, oh, Mercury is the quickest planet. It's like, yeah, true. But if you take into account the luminaries, the moon is actually by far the quickest heavenly body. And it's all about motion, which is why it is assigned the first cardinal sign. And then it's, of course, next to Leo, ruled by the sun. And the most important aspect formed by the moon and sun is that new moon. Getting that new moon, that conjunction is perfect. And they each rule one sign because Cancer and Leo are the two brightest times of the year. We have the most daylight during Cancer and Leo. And of course, the two luminaries rule the time of the year where we get the most daylight. Leo for the sun is hot and dry. Leo is a very hot and dry time of the year. Cancer can be a bit wet. Leo season tends to be much drier. So Leo is also where the sun reaches its peak heat. So if heat is the primary function and attribute of the sun, then Leo expresses that completely perfectly. Yeah. Did you want to say something there? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would just say with Cancer, some good etymology, phonetics. You have the word answer. Gemini rules questions. Cancer rules the answers.
And the mind, the moon and Mercury together rule the mind. That's
Right.
actually excellent.
Well, you have your thoughts and your feelings right next to each other. Right there. Gemini rules thoughts. Like Thoth, right?
Yep.
Oh, we got to go through the other the other identities of the ruling planets. Like Mercury, guys, for example, Mercury is Thoth. So when we hear the word thought, that is a direct, sacred, angelic, light language encapsulation in English of the Egyptian god Thoth. And you don't have to stretch that and say there's a direct link. I'm saying it's an indirect link. It goes back to just phonetics. Puns are the language of the unconscious. At least Freud had that right?
Yep.
So you have Cancer, answer. Cancer also ruled by the moon. The moon goes by names like Serena, Selena, which is where we get words like siren from, serenade, serene, silence, right? All those words. Cancer in Spanish and Latin, you get words like cantador, cantar, to sing. Cancer rules singing and music. Look at all these words. Music. Siren, serenade, sirens. Cancer, cantador, cantar, right? Singing. Cancers make some of the best singers. Okay, they also put on weight real easy. Lana Del Rey. I'm talking to you.
The fat
But,
lady sings, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's all over when it's not over till the fat lady sings. That's what they say, right?
That's allegedly it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike said some good stuff about Leo. Leo, August, you see August. AU is gold in the periodic table. August. Gust is like gusto, like, gust of wind, like you've got gusto, like it's kind of like bravado or machismo. It's like saying, Leo energy is pretty
It's
much what it's saying.
the month of the golden wind, because
Yeah.
afterwards everything turns to gold. The leaves, the grass all turn to gold and then die in the fall, which we'll get to
Mhm.
shortly.
Now we're gonna have to do a whole nother episode just on etymology and phonetics because there's so much to chew on. But we'll try and focus on the rulerships. Cancer ruled by the moon. You see that even in the etymology or the phonetics. Leo, the same thing. Li means light. Libra is the false light. Leo is the true light, I guess you could say, the kingdom of heaven, right, in the summertime. But Li means light. So in Libra, you have fall's light, the fall time, the fall's light. In Leo, you have the true light. It's like the golden light. Libra's the false light. Leo's the golden light. Another interesting connection. Don't know if it's the best time to bring it up now, but LEO is law enforcement officer. Okay. And Libra actually rules law enforcement. So another interesting name connection between Leo and Libra. But Leo, ruled by the sun, like he said. Virgo's ruled by Mercury. And Virgo's on the verge. Now, Mercury contributes to that theme of being on the verge, right? Because Virgo's on the verge of the zodiac. After Virgo, you're halfway through the zodiac. That's the verge. Mercury is on the verge of many things. It's the bipolar planet, as represented by Gemini. So you see the same theme where it's like being in between two halves. You see that with the twin symbolism of Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And you see it in Virgo, where Virgo's on the verge of one half of the zodiac and the other half of the zodiac. And, right next to Virgo is Libra, the two scales. So Mercury being like in the middle of two things. Mercury is also in between the genders. The planet Mercury is considered hermaphroditic from the word Hermes and Aphrodite, but mostly Hermes.
Mm-hmm.
Hermaphroditic. So Hermes, Thoth, Mercury, Odin, all the same guy. Odin's kind of hard to pin down. Odin got applied to a lot of different forces of nature, but Odin is mostly Mercury. Ode to this, right? An ode to that. That's mercurial, to write something in honor of something. There's more to it than that. Din also refers to noise, like the clashing of steel, right? The din of swords. But okay, Libra, ruled by Venus. Let's notice the distinction between Taurus and Libra. This is our second repeat rulership. In Libra, ruled by Venus, you see the same vanity showing up, right? Libra is kind of well known for vanity and having nice style, being good with proportion and design and coloring and all that. Libra excel in fashion. Libra men sometimes have like a metrosexual vibe going on because they love their products and their skincare and their image, and Libras tend to be squared away, like visually. That's totally Venusian, that influence. Venus rules modeling too. Libras make the best models. Taurus has some of the most beautiful women. Libras of both genders tend to be the best looking of the signs. What do you think, Merlin? Would you agree?
Agreed. And yeah, Libra is associated with symmetry too, right? And like there's beauty in symmetry. You don't want like some crooked face where you're all right, like you want a beautiful symmetrical face. And that's what Libra rules exactly. And of course, Venus accentuates that.
Yeah.
I want to point out real quick, Leo backwards is OL, and L is God. That's a name for God. That's why theology, L is is theology. So it's, and of course the sun looks like an O in the sky. So it's OL.
Yeah. And the ring it makes around the North Pole is an O. So we're at Libra, ruled by Venus. And we see Venus again bringing her influence, right? Beauty, love too. Libra is all about love, tying the knot, right? This is Libra.
Wedding season.
Yep, married. Marriage is ruled by Libra. So in the 7th house, in astrology, they say your partner is going to show up there. So that's Venus, right? Taurus kind of rules the girlfriend stage. Libra rules the marriage stage. And we call this courtship, right? What else does Libra rule?
The courts.
The court system. Exactly. What crystal is Libra associated with? Quartz. Quartz with a Q. The quartz systems, the quartz crystal. You know that Libra rules measurements too? You know what LB stands for, Merlin? You know it.
Yeah. Libras, pounds in Spanish, or pound in Spanish is libras.
Exactly.
Yep.
So when you measure fluids, what's one of those measurements of fluids? Quart. Quartz. Libra, 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 Libra. That quart phonetic root ruled by Libra. Cordage, cords, tying the knot. Court. That's 5 meanings for the same phoneme or phenome, however you say it. That root sound, however you say it in English, goes back to Libra. So if you're still here, if you didn't overdose on schizo cringe just there, we're pressing on. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. That's our 3rd repeat rulership. Aries is ruled by Mars, hot, fiery. Scorpio's element is water, though. So all of Scorpio's fire, which it has a lot of, comes from the planet Mars, not the element. You see that? You see how not all of the personality is determined by the element or the modality? Much of it comes from the ruling planet. Scorpio has a ton of fire. Like we were talking about in the sub-elements, we were talking about Scorpio being fire water. It's a water sign, but it's the most fiery of the water signs. That comes from Mars. Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. You see that in the themes of expansion, right? Traveling is expansion in a way, kind of moving out, spreading out. Philosophy is expansive. All these things are ruled by Sagittarius. The word sage comes from Sagittarius. And Jupiter's the wisest planet, right? Mercury rules information, knowledge, education. There's another Odin word, education. Sagittarius rules higher learning, like philosophy or wisdom, things like that. Some say Sagittarius rules astrology, right? Casting an arrow, casting a horse, like a horse scope. Horse scope. Is that not a sharpshooter on horseback shooting his horse scope? Yeah. The archer, the sharpshooter. And the horoscope, you're looking for the sun. with your telescope, the Horus scope, the sun god Horus. So go ahead, Merlin.
Oh man, there's a lot there. Yeah, like of course Sagittarius is so wise, and that's why oftentimes you'll like there's the archetype and the trope of the religious person who is far more wise than the scholarly, bookish nerdy type. And they can both teach each other something, even if you're not book learned, if you have a reverence and appreciation for God and what is above and you aim higher, that's extremely Sagittarian.
Mm-hmm. Now Pisces is pretty wise too. Okay, they might be as wise, if not wiser, than Sagittarius. Sagittarius is mainly philosophy, which also doesn't translate 100% to wisdom, but Sagittarius is the most philosophical. Pisces is very wise. And we'll get to Pisces.
And real quick,
Yeah.
for Scorpio, the heart of the scorpion is a bright red star named Ant Aries. So it's literally the other end of Aries. If Aries is the spark of life, everything starts with Aries, with that spark, then it ends in Ant Aries. That's why Scorpio rules death. If Aries rules life, Scorpio rules death. And Mars, deals in both. Aries is quite horny, creating life in the springtime, and then things die in Scorpio in the fall.
Yeah. Yeah, we also got to talk about the secondary rulerships and the non-visible planets. So probably should have mentioned that up front, guys. But you're going to get it all in this broadcast. We're going to talk about the primary rulerships. We're going to talk about the secondary rulerships, which is not like a niche, crazy, thing. It's something very easy and simple to get your get an understanding of. It's just using Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto too. That's all the secondary rulerships are. You're saying that those extra three, which are semi or non-visible planets, right? They don't emit their own light, except for Uranus at some points in the year, debatably. You basically have three extra planets who fill in a ton of the gaps in the zodiac, and also help to differentiate signs like Aries from Scorpio. Same primary rulership. The secondary rulership explains a ton about them, about Scorpio, why Scorpio is so different from Aries, for example. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn rules karma, judgment, sacrifice, oppression, constriction, the cycles, completion of cycles, time. Some would say death, but that's kind of an oversimplification. But Saturn is often the Grim Reaper or grandfather time, the grandfather clock, right? Father Saturn, father time, grandfather Kronos, right? The old man, Santa Claus is Saturn too, you could say, because Santa Claus is a very karmic being. Okay, Jesus will forgive. Santa doesn't forgive. Santa will send you coal if you deserve it, right? That's traditionally what's supposed to happen. So Santa is a karmic entity. He's a winter entity. He's a winter deity. He's all about the cold weather and the chimney, squeezing down and covered in soot and all that. Very Saturnian. Okay, he's got a thing for kids. We're not going to dig into that too much, but very Saturn coded. All very Saturn coded. Santa's Satan too. At the end of the day, guys, we'll let you figure that one out. But Capricorn, and we're going to get to the exaltations too, because the exaltations kind of serve as secondary rulerships. We already used the term secondary rulerships, but the exaltations are like co-rulerships, I guess. An exaltation also determines the characteristics of a sign. They lend qualities to the signs. So Capricorn associated with many of those same Saturnian concepts, right? Grinding your 9 to 5 job, office job, playing the corporate, climbing the corporate ladder. That's Saturn coded, right? The climbing of the goat, the mountain goat, all that. Sacrificing your time, right? Help me out here. What else is Capricorn really known for?
I mean, labor, like the exchange of time for something else. It's trading time for something. Time is funny because like it's the one thing in the world it's sort of infinite, but it's not infinite for us in this realm. We have a finite amount of it. So that's why we trade it for things, for precious things, because time itself is precious.
Here's a good comment here from NoRad on 9/11. Say 10. Capricorn's the 10th sign of the zodiac. Satan, say 10. That's a good one. Thank you for that. I haven't said that before. Say 10, yeah. And say tan. To tan something is to like dry it like it's dead. You skinned it. You're drying it out. You're tanning something, right? Very Capricornian. Also, to make something darker, to tan, right? So,
and real quick, there are 2 points associated with the sun growing in power, and that's the Tropic of Capricorn. That's when the sun reaches its lowest point, but then after that begins increasing in power in the 10th sign of the zodiac. And then when it crosses the equator after Pisces into Aries, it grows in power again. And just fun fact, when it comes to the number 10 numerologically, right? 10 reduces to 1. So in 1 and 1, the number 1 luminary in the sky increases in power both of those times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you also see Mars, which rules the first sign, exalting in Capricorn, the 10th sign.
Oh, yeah.
So 1 and a 10 connection there. Aquarius, traditionally ruled by Saturn. And you can see that, Saturn rules humor. And Capricorn is also known for humor. Aquarius, I guess you could say, is known for their humor in another way. A Capricorn, Jim Carrey is a Capricorn. Great example of a Capricorn. Denzel Washington is also a Capricorn. So you see the comedy and the tragedy mask. They're super serious or just very goofy, like a clown. They either have the crown or the clown, right? Tragedy, comedy mask, right? Regal, legal. So Aquarius ruled by Saturn. See, and I'm almost pressed to kind of find an overt Saturnian influence on Aquarius because to me, I see it as so Uranian Aquarius. So much of Aquarius's attributes in my mind come from Uranus, who is the co-ruler, the secondary ruler, the non-visible ruler of Aquarius. But Aquarius rules unconventionality, like being 1 in a million. It rules uniqueness, which shares a phonetic root to eunuch. Uniqueness, right? To be a eunuch is to be like in between the genders or to be castrated. That's kind of a Saturnian concept there in a little bit, to be castrated especially. But Aquarius being ruled by having a secondary ruler, to me, is the best case for using the secondary rulers, the non-visible planets. Aquarius being ruled by Uranus makes so much more sense to me than having it ruled by the same planet, primarily as Capricorn. Capricorn you see is Saturnian through and through. Aquarius, like I said, I'm almost pressed to find an overt Saturnian connection. If What do you think Saturnian about Aquarius, Merlin?
So Leo, right? The sun rules Leo because Leo is associated with that heat, which is associated with the sun. Aquarius is the opposite. Aquarius is the dead of winter, right? So Saturn rules death. Saturn is the grim reaper.
Yeah.
Aquarius is fixed winter, right? If these are the three real winter signs right here, then Aquarius is fixed winter. Nothing feels more wintry than Aquarius. And Saturn is the coldest and slowest planet. And life outside, in nature is at its coldest and slowest during Aquarius, and that also is like, there's a lot of positive things happening within in that time. But as far as nature goes, it's the opposite of Leo. It is super cold. That is super Saturnian. Life isn't springing back yet. Life is really dead. So I think that's the strong Saturnian connection there, is the opposition to Leo. And then, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going.
No, that's pretty much it. I want to talk about the aspects of the domiciles later, but we'll do that
Right.
after we finish finish Pisces.
So Pisces, ruled by Jupiter traditionally, the primary ruler. But again, we already saw most of Jupiter's attributes being exhibited with Sagittarius, a fire sign. What more do we see in Pisces? Now, we brought up the wisdom thing. Jupiter lends wisdom to Sagittarius and Pisces. And again, there's kind of a progression in the life here. Sagittarius is kind of when you reach the age of professionalism, right? Right before you really sink into career in Capricorn. Pisces is full retirement. You're fully retired. You are elderly. You have the wisdom of a full life, right? Whereas Sagittarius is, I guess, still kind of an earned or learned, acquired wisdom, right? Studying philosophy or something like that. Pisces is just kind of innate. I don't know if innate's the right word, but wisdom you just end up with through time, through having lived life, being elderly. That's that Piscean wisdom. And also, you see the word piss in Pisces and the word whiz in wisdom. So, come on, And we got some more potty talk tonight. We're not done with the potty talk, folks, okay? Because it ties everything together, right? Pisces, ruled by Jupiter. But what about all this aqua stuff? What about all this, aquatic psychology, psychiatry, the silent P words? You can't really explain them without the external planets, the non-visible planets. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So here's where we're going to shift gears. And we kind of overviewed all the rulerships and how the primary rulerships, the planets, show up in the sign. It's kind of obvious to see. Now we're going to talk about the secondary rulerships and, make the argument, maybe state both sides, because some people don't use the non-visible planets, and that's totally fine. There's tons of great astrologers. Many of the greatest didn't even know about the non-visible planets. But let's run through them and kind of state the case for each of them. Aries only has one ruler. Taurus only has one ruler. Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra. No one's disputing the rulerships on any of those. Everyone knows what rules them. Everyone knows who rules them. No one argues. It's when we get to Scorpio that things get interesting, and there's fierce debate. Scorpio is primarily ruled by Mars. Pretty much no one would doubt that or bring that into question. But there's a secondary ruler for Scorpio, which is Pluto. Pluto is the proposed secondary ruler of Scorpio. Pluto rules the underworld. So Mars is all about war, warfare, competition, starting things, right? Pluto's all about the underworld. Pluto is the dog of the underworld, Anubis, Cerberus, Snoopy, Scooby. Who are the other ones? Snoopy, Scooby. Who's the other ooh? Goofy. Look at all these ooh, Pluto, right? Pluto is a dog's name too. Pluto, Goofy, Scooby. I think I said them all. There's more. The dog of the underworld archetype. Uncovering the dead, the mysteries, right? Also look up the riot dog archetype. And when you say riot dog, most people think of like, oh, what, the police use a dog? Snoop Dogg, that's a good one too. Snoop
Courage,
Dogg.
the Cowardly Dog.
Courage would probably fit that show is totally Pluto coded. It's an underworld fever dream.
Yeah.
It's like Halloween, right? So Halloween happens in Scorpio. So here's the thing. If we're only using Mars, where does all this death and blackness come from in Scorpio? I think Pluto explains it perfectly. You have the stinger of the scorpion, right? The barb. Pluto rules penetration, vaccination, inoculation. Pluto rules poisons. Pluto rules, well, some would say Neptune rules poison or Pisces, but Scorpio is definitely associated with deadly compounds. Pluto rules where Mars might rule kind of male lust, like a hot, fiery kind of sexual nature. Pluto rules an extreme sexually depraved nature, which Scorpios can be known for, right? Pluto rules. What else does Pluto rule? Pluto rules the depths of things, right? Now, Pluto ruling Scorpio. Pluto is a very black planet. Scorpio is all about black, black, black. Mars is all about color, red. Some say that the brightest colors are ruled by Mars because they're most agitating, right? Exciting, red, bright yellow, both ruled by Aries or associated with Aries. Scorpio is black, 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 jet black, the darkest of night. Some would say the darkest time of year, debatably. Dark, very Pluto coded. Halloween is as Plutonian of a holiday as they come. Sex, death, rebirth, indulgence, right? Anything you want to share, Merlin?
I could only honestly argue against it. So, but when it comes to Halloween specifically, it's actually a combination of Scorpio and Capricorn, allegedly. This goes to this book that I'm sure many of us are familiar with, the Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. In the Scorpio chapter, they mention that, and this goes into dodecatameries, guys. So there's so much to astrology. You have your domiciles, your exaltations, you have bounds, faces, triplicities, joys when it comes to houses, but then also dodecatameries. And what those are is that each sign of the zodiac, right? So if you divide 30 degrees by 12,
Right.
each sign of the zodiac has 2.5 degrees allotted to the every other sign, basically, plus the one that it is, right? So when Halloween happens is during the dodecatamery of Capricorn, and it's a very Saturnian / Scorpionic holiday. And that's why, Capricorn rules the skeletal system. And that's why we get the skeletons with Halloween and all the death and life. So it's really the combination of Saturn and Scorpio, in my humble opinion, with it when it comes to Halloween specifically.
Yeah, and that makes sense because traditionally all the things associated with Scorpio by modern astrologers kind of was collapsed into Saturn in traditional astrology. So the Grim Reaper is, like in the Scream Mask, is Pluto in my mind. But to the ancient astrologer or someone who just wasn't factoring in Pluto, that would probably show up with Saturn. And like Merlin's saying, Saturn has like a deaconship within Scorpio, within a span of degrees of Scorpio. Correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
Saturn has a bit of a home in Scorpio. So there's a case to be made for that. Another thing that jumps out to me about Pluto and Scorpio. Oh man, someone just commented this. The Phoenix. People love to talk about Scorpio being the sign of death and transformation. And Capricorn might rule the end of cycles and things like that. But Pluto kind of rules the depth of going down, right? What's down, very deep down below, like the underworld. Now, people love to talk about Scorpio having 3 phases. The scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. And the phoenix in itself being a transformative animal that dies and is reborn, fiery, covered in ashes, soot, right? Black fire coming out of the black ashes. Very scorpionic, but you see Pluto in a lot of those qualities because Pluto is believed to be the planet of transformation and revolution. It kind of shares those attributes a little bit with Uranus, who also rules revolution a little bit, rebellion. Uranus and Pluto are the 2 rebel planets, the 2 outlaw planets too. So Pluto rules Scorpio alongside Mars in the eyes of modern astrologers. And modern's kind of misleading because I believe this because I believe it's an ancient principle. Merlin doesn't use the non-visible planets, and that's totally fine. We agree on pretty much everything else. Pluto, ruled by Scorpio, just makes so much sense to me in how black and dark, the people choose to dress, all that. Now, Sagittarius, only 1 ruler. Capricorn, 1 ruler. We get to Aquarius, and we get to the second sign that has a secondary ruler or an association with a non-visible planet. And remember, Uranus is visible during certain times of the year. Now, some would debate that, but that's generally what is printed on the internet. People say Uranus is visible for parts of the year. Now, we call those 3 planets non-visible because Neptune and Pluto never emit their own light. You can only pretty much see them or determine where they are exactly when they pass in front of something else that is emitting light, like a star or something else out there, an asteroid or whatever. But they don't shine their own light. Definitely not brightly. You can't see them with the naked eye ever, Neptune or Pluto. Uranus, you can. Now, that makes Uranus a semi-visible planet. Some would call it non-visible. Neptune and Pluto are non-visible. And you'll notice if we're using the non-visible planets, they only show up at the end of the zodiac, the very, very end. I think that's fitting. I think they're kind of hidden, buried almost. But Scorpio's the first, Scorpio's almost like an early ending. It's like sudden death. Scorpio rules sudden death, right? Pisces rules natural death at the full end of the cycle, right before
100%.
rebirth.
Yeah.
So I see Pluto showing up there in Scorpio with the association of sudden death. And there's like a small graveyard halfway through the zodiac. But then Uranus and Neptune show up at the very end. So Aquarius, like I was saying with Saturn, to me, it's hard to make a firm connection. There is one, but it's hard to say that Aquarius gets most of its attributes or most of its personality solely from Saturn. Aquarius, to me, is totally Uranian. Let's see what Uranus rules. Uranus is the rebel planet. It rules chaos a little bit. It also, depending on who you ask, rules like neon light, inventions, like it's almost like a Promethean energy, right? Like sudden bursts and sparks of genius. Uranus rules genius, inventions, inventors. The word genius is associated, can be linked to Janus. And Janus is another way of saying Uranus. It's the same god, same planet. Janus. Hello, we're actually closed. Sorry about that. That's the side door. Give me 1 sec.
So, all right, just full disclosure for the chat. Like, I could only argue against the outer planets. I don't use them. I've actually written a book that I'm finishing editing where I completely argue against the outer planets. From my opinion, when it comes to Scorpio and sudden death, Mars rules murder, Mars rules robbery, Mars rules all the malefic things that happen at night, right? Like Mars and Saturn are both malefic planets, but Mars is nocturnal. So think about the horrific crimes that happen at night, right? Like you got the SA stuff, murder, robbery, all these things. So that's, in my opinion, the sudden death connection with Scorpio. And then with Aquarius and Genius, Saturn does rule meditation. This is a little random aside, but every single one of the original 5 planets, not the 2 luminaries, but the 5 planets, are associated with one of the 5 senses. Saturn rules hearing, and that's why Saturn rules meditation, because if you sit in silence, then you get that genius wisdom. I forgot who the quote is, but I think someone said like all genius comes from meditation or something like that, and long goes back.
Yeah, Merlin's got some good content if you're interested in hearing the case against the non-visible planets. A lot of other astrologers talk about that too. I'm going to try and state the case for them tonight, especially if you're just hearing about this for the first time. It should be known that many people today, I'd say it's the majority. Not that matters for anything, but easily. The majority do factor in the non-visible planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. But hear me out, and I think you'll at least see the phonetic and mythological connections between these gods, whether they're planets or not. And that's another discussion to be had. Maybe they're just asteroids. Maybe they're just some body that does move in the heavens, but they don't deserve to be on the level of a full planet. That's another conversation lots of people have. But Aquarius, queer. Aquarius, queer. Janus, just like Mercury, is in between. Janus has 2 faces. Janus is quite literally the octave of Mercury. Uranus is the octave of Mercury. It's like an evolved form of Mercury. Pluto is like an evolved form of Mars. Everything Mars rules, Pluto rules to an umpth degree, right? Mars rules, how would you say it? Well, you guys get the point. Uranus is like Mercury on steroids. Mercury rules talking and communication. Uranus rules the radio and cell phone towers and antennas, right? Things like that.
Mercury rules sight. So someone just said in chat, like, oh, I associate meditation with sight more than hearing. I mean, okay, but Saturn rules hearing and Saturn rules meditation. But to your point currently, Mercury rules sight. And if we're using those outer planets, Uranus is the one that you can see sometimes, to add to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Uranus and Janus can also be associated with the Cyclops a little bit. But Janus has 2 faces, which is very, it's like a callback to Gemini, which rules the twins. Mercury, which rules Gemini, is the twins. You see that same theme coming up in Aquarius, which doesn't make much sense unless we're tying it to Mercury through Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius as the secondary ruler. And I think that's where it gets its rebellious attitude. The fact that Aquarius is 1 in a million. They're always very unique. And yes, that's because they share that axis with Leo too. Leo makes a great effort to stand out, right? They like take pride in standing out. Aquariuses don't have to try. Aquariuses are as unique as it gets without even trying. And queer, queer just means weird. It can mean unusual, it can mean, Aquariuses are also very inquisitive, just like Geminis, right? They might have a ton of questions. They want to know how things work. Knowledge, right? Gemini is all about I think. Aquarius is I know. Knowledge, right? Fine line there. But you
Both
see
air
so much.
signs.
You see so yeah, exactly. Both air signs. You see so much of Mercury showing up in Aquarius because Uranus is like the Mercury on steroids, the octave of Mercury. Aquarius rules the gender neutrality. That's another thing about having like half man, half female. Janus having two faces, two halves of a head. Janus, here's another one, guys. Okay. And sorry, Merlin, but I think these are the hardest to
It's all
refute.
good.
Is Uranus, urine, and anus. Guys, Janus is where we get words like janitor, the one who holds all the keys to the doors. Janus rules doorways and keys. That's where we get janitor. It's not because janitor means cleaning up crap. It means the one who holds all the keys and is able to go to all the doors, right? The doors of perception, right? Psychedelic kind of concept, very Uranian. Aquarius and the age of Aquarius and the LGBTQ and the sexual renaissance or sexual revolution in the 60s, the tie-dye, the hippies, all very Uranus. Technology exploding, electronic instruments exploding, coming out of nowhere. Everything's amped up to 10. Things have distortion and effects, and music sounds like it's coming from another planet. Here's another thing. Aquarius rules like aliens, I think. Like extraterrestrial, space, celestial objects. The two signs that rule space and the sky, in the heavens, Sagittarius and Aquarius. Aquarius rules the stars, especially. So Uranus is all about, like I said, urine and anus. Come on, guys. Aquarius, Janus, the janitor, urine and anus, doing a lot of cleaning up. And the genius, like the genius janitor archetype, as seen with Matt Damon, Good Will Hunting, Morgan Freeman in what's it called? Bruce Almighty. And there's more. Ned's Declassified, some of those other shows where the janitor Scrubs, where the janitor is always the wise one. The janitor knows all. Breakfast Club, guys. They're always out there and kooky and weird and like,
Even Alfred in Batman seems to have the answers that Bruce Wayne needs when he needs them.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a janitor.
Show of oranges in the chat if you know of the janitor, genius janitor archetype, or if you know of any other good ones. Name them if we missed any. But genius janitor, huge archetype, goes back to Uranus. Okay, we'll think of some more about Uranus and Aquarius. Pisces. Who is Pisces' secondary ruler? Where does Pisces get all this sea, ocean, from? It's a water sign. Fair enough. But Neptune. Neptune is the god of the oceans, the seas. Poseidon and Neptune. And here's probably the most compelling one for Poseidon and Neptune and Pisces. The silent P words. Pisces, Psyche, psychedelic, psychology. All these silent P words go back to Poseidon. Poseidon, the god of the ocean. What's the symbol of psychology? The trident of Neptune, of Poseidon. It's the symbol, the medical symbol of psychology and psychiatry. It's Pisces. Sorry, it's the trident. That trident comes directly from Poseidon, who rules silent P words, like I said. And then also the fish. Poseidon has like a, how would you say it? Like a carriage drawn by fish or dolphins or something like that. Sometimes Pisces was the dolphin in historical zodiacs. What else? What can you argue for Neptune and Pisces, Merlin? What more connections do you see, if any?
Well, Pisces rules finance.
Right.
Neptune, we get nepotism. So if you were great financially, you may leave a liquid inheritance for your
Right.
progeny at the end of your life. Pisces, Neptune.
Yeah. Pisces. Now it's the end, and we said that it rules wisdom, but have you ever heard wet feet? Someone has wet feet, right?
Little pussy.
Wet feet. There it might be inept. Okay.
Mm.
Inept, wet feet, untrained, unprepared, incapable. Pisces. Also, a lot of unk words. Pisces, or Neptune's the uncle of the zodiac. He's the uncle god. He's not the father or the grandfather. Neptune is the uncle. That's why we have Uncle Sam in America. Well, we'll get to that when we get to the exaltations. But rulerships, there's the primary, and we just went through the 3 secondary. So Scorpio, ruled by Mars, and Pluto. That explains a lot of the Halloween, the death, the underworld, the blackness. Uranus, being a co-ruler to Aquarius, rules a lot of the queerness, the genius, the innovation of Aquarius, the uniqueness, unique, right? The gender neutrality there of Aquarius. And Neptune in Pisces with silent P words like Poseidon, psychology, psyche. Also, there is a goddess, I believe, named Psyche, who was associated with Poseidon. So there is a firm link between them, but don't want to act like I haven't heard of her. There is a Psyche goddess, I believe. So Poseidon is the original origin of that phonetic root. But yeah, Psyche's also a goddess, I believe. Pisces also, yeah, net, I guess, if you want to say like Neptune. Yeah.
Fish with a net.
Yeah. Tuning also to be, here's a good one, a good phonetic link that totally syncs up with Pisces.
Hey.
Tune, sync with a Y, to synchronize. Harmony, right? To be in tune. But then also the kitchen sink. To sink down is to go all the way to the depths. That is very Piscean. All unk and ink and onk, ank words go back to Poseidon or Pisces. Watch. Why is that? Because in the Norse pantheon, Yngvi, who's not always associated with the ocean or water, but Yngvi is Poseidon or Neptune in the Norse pantheon. And I'll show you how. Ing, unk, ink, the ink, right? Like a squid's ink, right? That's a little bit of a stretch, but ink In words like sunk, sank, sink, you see the ink, unk, ank, right? Yank. You yank the rope to pull up the anchor. Anchor, onk, right? That onk, what's an onk? It's an anchor. And we see that in uncle too. Ingvi is the same root. So you see words like ink. You see words like, what are some more? Tank, right? To be like in a fish tank. There's all these unk. Enki, thank you. Bingo. That ties it together. Thank you, Angie. That's a good Enki name right there, Angie. But Enki is the same god. Enki is the one with the fish. Enlil is the one with the eagle, I believe. So Enki, Ingvi, Uncle Sam, same guy. So Pisces co-ruled by Neptune, and there's a lot more we can say about Neptune, but we also need to talk about the exaltations. So rulerships is like the patron saint or the patron planet. Go ahead. You want
Sorry,
to say
before I just want to add a 5 minutes real quick, if that's cool, just to add. I think this is important for the domiciles, if that's cool.
Yes.
So right, the luminaries rule Leo and Cancer, the most luminous time of the year. But then also the reason that these domiciles got assigned was it's also, of course, the nature of the signs. It all ties together. It's all true, which is why it works. But it's also the aspects that they form with the domiciles, right? So Mercury is the closest planet to the sun always. It can't go too far from the sun, which is why it rules Virgo, which conjoins Leo, and Gemini, which conjoins Cancer right there, right? And then we go to Venus, which from the moon, if the moon's the bottom, Mercury is next, and then Venus is the third planet from the bottom. So it forms a sextile. The first degrees of Taurus are 60 degrees away from the first degrees of Cancer. So the sextile this is a thing we'll talk about.
Sextile. Where do I buy one of those? At Home Depot?
Oh, definitely. They got lots there. The sextile is the aspect of lesser friendship. It's the lesser benefic aspect. And Venus is the lesser benefic planet. Jupiter is the greater benefic. So its domiciles literally form the perfect aspect with it, right? So like the first degrees of Leo, sextile, the first degrees of Libra, and the 60 degrees. Mars, Aries, the first degrees, square Cancer, and the first degrees of Leo are 90 degrees away from the first degrees of Scorpio, the fixed signs, and another square from each of the luminaries. Now, and again, Mars is the lesser malefic, and the square is said to be the sign, or the aspect rather, of lesser malice. So the two most negative aspects in astrology are the square and the opposition. There's some debate, especially among modern astrologers, as to which one is worse. I think it depends on the planets personally, but the ancient astrologers were dead set that the opposition, which is a 180 degree, like Aquarius is opposite Leo, they were set that the opposition was the most evil aspect. But so we'll see here, right? Jupiter trines in Pisces, trines Cancer, and then Leo trines Sagittarius, and Jupiter is completely associated with the trine. When Jupiter retrogresses, it trines the sun, and the trine is the best aspect in astrology. It's always a good thing. The trine is said to be the aspect of superior or greater friendship, and Jupiter is the greater benefic planet. And this will tie into exaltations too when we talk about that. It's going to tie in beautifully. And then, of course, Leo is opposite Aquarius and Cancer is opposite Capricorn. So they're complete opposites in nature. And Saturn is opposite in cycle and nature to the sun and moon, right? Like the sun and moon are super visible. Saturn rules darkness. So that's there, right? And then, of course, the moon, well, we'll talk about that later with the falls and everything. But yeah, so it's just important to know, guys, that the aspects formed by the domiciles also relate to the natures of the planets. So we can go exaltations now if that's cool with you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, in the exaltations, there's a ton to say about the phonetics and the naming. So do you have an exaltation graphic?
It's up, yes, sir.
Oh, we're already there. Amazing.
Yeah, do you want to bring it back?
No, perfect.
Okay.
And
And I also have this too. Let me just show you this real quick. It's the little chart that I sent you. It's like just has the specific degrees of exaltation, but then we have the graphic as well.
Awesome. So, do you want to go through them? I'm going to go out smoke a bowl. Do you want to go through them? Just an overview. Just kind of list them, starting with the areas and going through in order.
Yeah,
then we'll go back through them and explain why.
And I'll at the very least save the outer planets for you. I mean, I'll go over them a little bit if you want, but I'll give a brief overview. So
Okay.
All right, guys. So again, starting with Aries, the sun exalts in Aries, and that makes perfect sense because if we're thinking about if the domiciles,
how about this?
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
What is exaltation?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So if a domicile is like your home, an exaltation is what suits you best outside of your home. It's like your favorite thing to do, your favorite place to be. It's the most perfect complement to your nature, right? So if we associated Leo as the domicile of the sun, because Leo's hot, Leo's dry, the sun is super hot, super bright, super dry. Leo, very bright time of the year. We have very long days during Leo. Aries is the exaltation of Leo because it's about increasing heat. At that point, the sun crosses the equator and really begins increasing in heat. Now, of course, that heat peaks in Leo, so the sun rules Leo, but it exalts in Aries because Aries is where that heat increases. When it comes to the moon exalts in Taurus. Fun fact, the moon exalts in specifically the 3rd degree of Taurus, which just happens to be the 33rd degree of the Zodiac, Illuminati confirmed. But the moon exalts in Taurus, and you would think, why Taurus, right? You know, the moon is wet, the moon is fast. Well, Taurus is a little bit drier. It's still a pretty wet sign. You know, we have April showers during Taurus, like we talked about last week. But Taurus really stabilizes the moon, right? If the moon is, zooming around the zodiac once per month, it does an entire circuit. Taurus is that point that really stabilizes the moon and brings some much needed solidity to the most liquid heavenly body. Then we have Jupiter next up, exalting in Cancer. So Cancer is perfect for Jupiter for a lot of reasons, right? You know, Jupiter rules wisdom, but what's wise? Again, going back to the Bible, Christianity, like Longo likes talking about once in a while, God said, be fruitful and multiply. So you take that wisdom and you apply it to Cancer, the sign that is associated with fecundity, reproduction, the home, the gathering. And that is all Jupiter, right? Jupiter is expansive. What's more expansive than Cancer? And again, you can think of the disease, but it's the disease, like the disease Cancer is such a bad twist on the sign of Cancer. Please don't ever think of Cancer as a negative sign. Jupiter is all about expansion and Cancer is all about expansion. So again, Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius, and that rulership is completely perfect, but it does best in Cancer. And yeah, so that should be enough for that. Neptune also exalts in Cancer. So Cancer is interesting. It's one of 2 signs with a double exaltation. We'll get to Pisces later. You'll see Venus exalts in Pisces, and so does Pluto. Now, Cancer, you have Neptune and Jupiter exalting in Cancer. Mercury exalts in Virgo. And that's another unique one because Mercury rules Virgo. So Virgo and Mercury, that's the only sign planet combination where the ruler exalts in his own domicile. And I think the strongest argument for Mercury exalting in Virgo is where Mercury falls. And we'll talk about falls after. Falls and exaltations are two sides of the same coin. Saturn exalts in Libra, which makes perfect sense because what else do we have associated with Libra? Well, we have Venus, right? So Libra is the beginning of the fall, and there we have Saturn or Satan and Venus or Eve. You know, you have the temptation of the fall. And this again goes to Saturn being an opposite of the luminaries, right? Like if the sun turns on in Aries, he exalts in Aries. The sun falls in Libra. So when the sun falls, Saturn wakes up and exalts. And then we'll also cover that. The exaltations, guys, the fall is always opposite of the exaltation. So everything you see here, these are the exaltations. Just go to the opposite sign, and that's where the heavenly body will fall, whichever one it is. Doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. Then we have Capricorn, where Mars exalts in Capricorn. And that may, again, like Longo was saying last week, or rather 2 weeks ago, that could be confusing because you think, oh, Mars is so fiery. Why would it exalt in Capricorn? Well, we did assign the sub element of fire to Capricorn because Mars exalts there. And also it just makes sense given the movable nature of the cardinal Earth sign. But it has to do with Pisces, Venus exalting in Pisces. And if you'll notice, right, if Saturn is the greater malefic, well, Capricorn exalts in the feminine sign of the greater malefic, right? So signs, guys, are either masculine or feminine. We didn't go over this, but it'll take 2 seconds. It's super intuitive.
You can say active or passive, so we don't hurt any Libra's feelings, or we don't hurt any water and earth signs feelings.
I see. I want to, but think about it. No, yeah, for sure. But like, think about it. It's so easy, guys, because the feminine signs are like Longo was saying, the water and the earth signs. Why are they feminine? Well, a lot of reasons, but you can think of it like this: things grow in the water, things grow in the earth. Air and fire signs are masculine. Go ahead, bro.
They're just the denser elements.
That too. I mean, there's a million reasons. Like, that's what's so cool about astrology, guys, is it's so true for so many reasons, and you can compound your astrological knowledge constantly, and it only gets more true the more you study it. That's why if you go back and you read these great astrological books, so many authors begin their books by just trashing people who trash astrology. Everybody who studies astrology, we know that the only people who trash astrology are people who have never studied it. They'll be like, oh, I know my sun sign. That's pretty gay. And like, they don't know anything. They know no theory. They know nothing. They're completely happy in their own ignorance and like, whatever, let them be. They know, they don't deserve it, honestly. This is such profound, excellent, God-given wisdom. It's the study of the heavens. If you want to mock it, dude, live your life, man. Go watch sports ball. Go lose your money on DraftKings with Dave Portnoy. Okay, it's all good, right? Anyway, so I mentioned that Mars exalts in the domicile of the greater malefic. Well, Venus does the same thing. If Jupiter is the greater benefic, then the lesser benefic, Venus, exalts in the feminine domicile of the greater benefic. And there's just so much here because then if you think about it, what do these two planets do? You have Venus and Mars. We have a sextile again. And what, Venus is the most feminine planet. Mars is the most masculine planet. What do men and women do? Well, it's sex. So their exaltations literally sextile to the degree too. You can see here that
actually makes me think of Aquarius being in between the genders again.
Oh,
It's in it's
dude.
in it's in between the exaltations of the feminine and masculine planet.
There you go.
Mars, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yep.
Aquarius is right in the middle.
And that's why, again, guys, like you just compound the astrological knowledge. That just reinforced everything Longo was saying about the Aquarians, you know, the androgyny of Aquarius. And there it is, literally between the two genders. And again, we'll talk about in a bit, you know, like there's debate as to whether planets are happier in their exaltation or happier in their domiciles. I'd
Right.
argue exaltation, honestly, a lot of the times. Like there's not, it's not bad to be in your domicile. It's obviously great, but like, you know,
Yeah.
the exaltations, guys, are so
Yeah.
significant.
And it helps to look at the other side. There's fall and debilitation.
Yeah.
And fall is a full, like, doesn't want to be there, not happy. And that's the opposite of, hang on, the rulership. Is that correct? Or the exaltation?
The fall is the opposite of the exaltation. So Mercury
Right.
exalts in Virgo and falls in Pisces.
Thank you.
Aries. Yeah, yes, sir. Go ahead.
So what's the I got lost. What's the alternative? What did I say? I said the wrong of two options. What was the other option?
The domiciles or the rulerships?
Yeah, what were we just talking about?
Exaltations, falls.
Yeah, repeat what you just said though.
Oh man, I said a lot. When I was talking about the male and female, the Pisces and Capricorn exaltation, or the fact that the exaltation is opposite the fall.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay.
So debilitation would be opposite of rulership.
Yes, exactly.
So that's the way you'd look at it. Is fall is the opposite of exaltation, and fall's where the planet least wants to be. So exaltation would be where the planet most wants to be. Is what I was trying to say back there. Now, the exaltation, just to kind of add to what Merlin said a couple minutes ago, in the overview of what's an exaltation, it's the sign that the planet really wants to be in. The planet is happiest there, right? The planet has a family history. So with Aries, Mars is its genes, right? But it wants the sun to be there. And the sun, even though it's related to Leo, wants to be in Aries. That's the distinction.
Yeah.
It has blood ties to the rulership that are innate, but it can be and wants to be. It has the option of being in the sign that it exalts, whereas it's always associated with the sign it rules. So rulership is innate. Exaltation is also something that doesn't change, but essentially you're hoping for an exaltation, whereas rulership is good, but yeah. Exaltation is where the planet really wants to be, where it's kind of exhibiting its best behavior, its talents to the best of its abilities. Go ahead, Merlin.
Yeah, no, it's such a good complement to the planet, right? Like the domiciles are the nature, the exaltation is what it needs.
Mhm.
You know, do you have everything you need in your own home? No. But if you go out there and intermingle a little bit, you can get what you need.
You're American with the $5 tip says, what exactly are the planets and do they rule our consciousness from above? I don't know if I'd say they rule our consciousness. I would say, how about this? The 7 planets can be 100% associated with the virtues and vices. So it's not necessarily none of these planets are making choices for you. They're just going to increase or induce tendencies. Like maybe, on certain days you crave certain things and you just don't know why, right? Saturn rules, well, here, there's 7 planets and 7 vices, and the vices can be flipped, right? So the planet rules the chakra in each of the parts of the body. And if it's debilitated or if it's active and, properly worked on, you're going to have a vice. Sorry, if it's debilitated, you're going to have a vice. If it's balanced or working, cleared, whatever you want to call it, you're going to have a virtue, right? So each of the planets are almost like pendulums that swing between a vice or a virtue, and they each are have like a location in the body. Each of the 7 chakras harbors planetary energy in the different parts of the body, and the virtues and the vices kind of emanate from those energy centers, believe it or not. And now there's disagreement as to which planet goes with which chakra. There's a ton of disagreement, just like there's disagreement as to which planet goes with which sin. But how about this? Vanity, right? Pride, vanity, in the visible sense, seems to have a lot to do with Venus. If we're going to replace it with ego and say pride, it might be the sun or Jupiter. It depends how you look at the vices, depends what word you use for them, right? Some people say vanity, some people say pride. But vanity would be Venus, for sure. Pride could be the sun. Ego could be Jupiter, depending on what word you use. But the 7 virtues correspond to the 7 planets. So I'd say that they're like, forgive the cliche, energies, moods. They're like verbs. They're like influences. They're impulses rather than determining what you think or your consciousness. Planets don't rule that much. That's one of the psyop astrologies. That's one of the astrologies the Bible warns about, is giving too much power to astrology or giving too much decision making to the planets themselves. God's in control.
100%.
The planets are just like God's fingertips, right? I have a video out there somewhere where I say God doesn't have hands that he just kind of reaches down and moves everything around down here, right? We all say it's God's plan and his vision and his doing, but we don't see his hands or puppet strings moving everything. He works through more subtle influences. And some of his co-creators, as described in the beginning of the Bible, where you see the cherubim being mentioned, go check out our earlier episode, find out about the cherubim. And you see astrology in the first chapter of the Bible, the sun ruling the day, the moon ruling the night. What other astrology was in there that I was going to say?
In the Bible?
No, just in the first
Genesis?
book of the Bible. Yeah.
I mean, there's Adam and Eve in Genesis, right? I would consider that Mars and Venus personally.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say, but the Exaltations, let's just get back to that. Well, I hope I answered your question a little bit. Euro-American. What exactly are the planets, and do they rule our consciousness? Okay, that's what I was going to say. The Elohim, what are the Elohim? El means Saturn to a lot of ancient people. El. So why is Saturn potentially being named as one of the co-creators with God? Who are the Elohim that represent God? Who are the beings conversing amongst themselves that seem to just be one God in the English Bible? I think there's a great case to be made, and this is one of the traditional Jewish, like, mystical interpretations, is that they're the 7 planets. The 7 planets, with Saturn being the chief, chairman of the board, decision maker, a council of 7. These are like God's fingers, they each have an influence in creation. None of them are supreme, not even Saturn or Jupiter. But Saturn and Jupiter are usually the bosses. They kind of fight for control of the 7. But yeah, that's what I'd say what the planets are. They are light. They're music in the stars. They're sonoluminescence. Go look up that word. The planets are sonoluminescent torches, beacons. Saturn, that planet right there, isn't the one controlling karma necessarily, but it's a beacon to track that area of life with. It's not that little light in the sky isn't the thing making everything work, but it's the beacon for that source of creation. That's how I see the planets, right? All the lights have God behind them at the end of the day. But
Can I take a spin on that real quick?
of course, please.
So, like, you guys might be familiar with one of the best Longo clips. There's the clip of Longo when he's explaining what astrology is, and he says, everyone knows the sun affects us, right? And then he says, well, astrology is just, what about Mercury? What about Jupiter? What about this, right? So what I would recommend doing to really understand the planets, like there's two answers, right? If you think that you're on a ball, then the planets are either rocks spinning in a vacuum or lumps of gas in a vacuum. But I would recommend getting familiar with the work of Ken Wheeler because he explains what light is better than anybody. And light is a perturbation of the ether. So these, heavenly bodies, just like the sun perturbs the ether, right? The sun rises and the dandelions in the yard, they will spring and they will magnetically like lock onto the sun as the sun rises. They have an attraction to it. So the sun perturbs the ether and we get the effects of that down here. That is so obvious to see. All the planets, it's just more subtle. But like Longo was saying, they're lights, they're heavenly bodies, and that the finger metaphor is perfect because I like thinking of the signs as a fretboard, right? So you have your fretboard, and then the planets are where those fingers go on that fretboard. So definitely check out Ken Wheeler if you're not familiar with it, and just learn what light actually is. It's not a photon. It's not a wave particle duality. Like he says, there's no such thing as a duality in nature. Duality is just a misconception. There are polarities, absolutely. But yeah, I'll land it there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Someone just said, Longa last few days have been crazy. Sky watching on Palm Beach. Shit flying all directions. Dude, I know. I took a video of something in the sky yesterday. It was a red rocket. I don't know if SpaceX or NASA launched anything. Usually those things are white when they launch them. Whatever rocketed through the sky last night made a big jizz bubble in the sky. Okay. It was red last night. Red, blood red. First time I'd ever seen a red one. We see them all the time on the east coast of Florida here. They start up near Orlando on the coast, and then they come down past Palm Beach, and they disappear over the ocean. They go right by my house, pretty much. The ocean's right over there. This thing was red. Now, in the days leading up to that, there were reports, and not just reports. I saw it. I saw videos, pictures. My friend took some. My friend's a pilot. He sent me this. That's how I first heard about it, I think. The Aurora Borealis in Mississippi. Some say as far south as Florida in the Panhandle. Are you kidding me? And it wasn't a green one. Well, it was green. It was mostly red. Red. Now, it's still Scorpio season. Mm-hmm. So to see blood in the sky is not uncommon. October's often been called. There's been many red Octobers, bloody Octobers. Yeah, so we're still in Scorpio season. But red. There's an asteroid shower or whatever it's called, meteor shower the last couple days over Florida too, I believe. Crazy stuff. All this stuff is happening, and it's more activity than I've ever seen in the sky since I've been paying attention these last couple days. Go check that out, people, if you haven't already.
It's incredible. During this grand water trine, too. We keep getting a few questions in chat. Your boy John Sup, the pronunciation princess from last week, he keeps asking about the moon. But people keep saying the moon's not a planet. Guys, Longo mentioned this earlier, but to reiterate, it is far more wise to refer to everything in the heavens, like at least the ones that move, right? And the two luminaries as planets. A lot of people
Yeah.
call all of them luminaries. They're not all luminaries. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
Venus can cast a shadow, but the sun and moon are luminaries. Then there are the other planets, but the sun and moon, especially in astrology, are considered planets. So just
Right.
please understand that, guys. Like, yes, it's a satellite, it's a
Totally.
rock orbiting, but it's a planet, okay?
Great distinction. And also, Merlin, this goes back to the rulerships.
Mhm.
This is perfect. We're going to learn about the body here, too, guys. Okay. The astrology, the zodiac, is encoded in the body. There's 7 orifices or openings in the head, correct? 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. That's 7. You've also got, that's your 7 planets, your 7 organs too, 7 major organs, 7 chakras, all that. But notice that, hang on, how do we say this? Okay, let's go to the hands now. You've got 5, 6, and 7 in the hands. You've got 10 and 12 in the hands. People say 10, 12, we count with 5s. Well, it depends how you're place holding. If you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now you have a whole 6 in this one thumb, you can go back to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Nice.
Now you're counting in 6s with 5 digits on your fingers. So you already have 6s. People say, oh, the 6 is a deception or whatever. No, you can use the same 5 fingers to count with 6s. And when you get to, that's 30. So this is actually better for keeping track of time. You can have 30 seconds, 60 seconds on your fingers. Now, some people like to count the knuckles too, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the luminaries, the planets. There's 7 planets. Get over it. People say, oh, Earth's not a planet. Moon's not a planet, this and that. Okay. Planet means wanderer. So yes, Earth's not a planet. Never will be. Can't. Cannot. We're not wandering. We're the perspective. We're the point of view. This is objectivity right here. Now, everything's relative to where we are right here. But then if you look at what planet means, all planet means is wandering. That's all it means. It's like plane, like you're wandering the plains. Planet, right? The plan, right? You're moving with the plan. You're moving in according to plan, right? Planets. And by the way, if you want to plan something, it's best to use astrology. Use the planets. Planet ahead. Planet. Okay. Planet just means wanderer. So get over that. Don't get triggered. It's okay. And yes, the sun and the moon are planets because they're moving. Now, they're not wandering stars. Wandering stars, the 5 planets, conventional planets. That's a wandering star. So planet is all 7, sun and moon included. There's only 2 luminaries, though. Now, how do we find this in the hands? The 2 palms. What's an anagram for palm? Lamp. The fire in your hands, the torch in your hands, right? Right? People do this with the eye and, an eye in the palm or a light or like a laser beam in the palm, right? It's an energy center. It's your lamp. It's how you warm things up, your lamps. So you've got the palms. Your left palm has the moon. Your right palm has the sun in it. Some would say it's the opposite because the left palm's closer to your heart. Whatever. 1 palm for the moon, 1 palm for the sun. Then you've got 5 planets in the 5 fingers. But people say, but what about the 10? Well, put them together. Now you've got your doubled up rulerships. in the zodiac. The 5 conventional planets, the 2 luminaries only rule one sign, whereas the 5 planets each have a double rulership. So Mercury rules two signs, Mars rules 2 signs, Venus rules 2 signs, Jupiter rules 2 signs, Saturn rules two signs. So those 5 fingertips are doubled up because, there's 10 signs that those 5 planets rule. Make sense? And then the 2 lamps, they only each rule 1. And they're big signs with a lot of light. Like Merlin was saying, the 2 lamps, Cancer and Leo, they're the 2 bright signs in Cancer. Okay.
And may I add that real quick?
Of course.
So someone in chat said the moon is flat, and they're completely right. Like they are planets. There's a lot of hypotheses that say, oh, it's all rotating. It's all rotating. Earth is not rotating. Neither are the heavenly bodies. You may believe the moon is rotating. You may have faith that the moon is rotating, but you'll never see it rotate. It's just, this has the same face everywhere. It doesn't rotate, and neither do the planets too, right? People attribute changing luminosity or changing characteristics to rotation, but that is a completely false assumption. So you'll never see it rotate. And then like another quick thing is people say like, oh, well, if that's true, then how come the moon looks different from the southern hemisphere? Well, put a picture of your face on the top of your ceiling in your room, walk from one side to the other, and you'll see that you're looking at the opposite side of it from the other side of the room. So like, please just don't be that foolish when it comes to thinking about these things, guys. Okay, please don't be foolish. And I will land it there.
Totally. Now the exaltations, let's run through them and then talk about the phonetics, which kind of will really help show them. Aries, the sun exalts. Remember we were saying Aries is like the same word as arise? The sun arises in Aries. That's where the sunrise happens, on the ecliptic or on the horizon, right? Aries, arise, horizon. Horus, sun. Aries rules sons, male children. Horus is the sun god. Horizon. Aries is over there and things arise in Aries on the ascendant. Taurus, the moon. We talked about Taurus, restaurants, food, eating. Cancer. Okay, sorry. Here. The names of the months, too, have a lot to do with the zodiac and the rulerships and exaltations. Yeah. March. You march to war. Mars exalts in Aries, and you march to war. Taurus, the moon, Venus, Gemini, mini, right? Mercury is where we get the root for micro, small, micro, macro, right? That's Thoth, right? As above, so below, right? The big and the small, as within, so without. Macro, micro, those are Mercury words. Mini is also a Mercury word. Micro, microscopic, miniature.
And Virgo, where Mercury both rules and exalts, they are concerned with those minute micro details. They're very, analytical.
Right. Now, Taurus is May, right? Taurus starts in May. May is Maya. Maya is also Gaia, which means Earth, but May and Maya is another way of saying Venus. Maria, you could say, is Venus or the moon. Both are active in Taurus. Gemini. Now, when we get to Cancer, the exaltation makes so much sense because it's June and July from Jupiter. Jupiter exalts in Cancer. Jupiter rules expansion, like Merlin was saying. Cancer rules expansion. It's perfect. The moon rules multiplication. Cancer rules multiplication. Slap them together. That's why Cancer is the most inflatable sign, expansive, nourishing, right? Now, June, July, you see Ju from Jupiter, but then also June, Neptune, one of Neptune's proposed places of exaltation is Cancer. I think the most convincing. That would also make sense when you see June, because it's Jupiter and Neptune combined, you get June. There's also Juno, so let's not ignore Juno, but Juno and June. And I believe Juno is a consort of Jupiter or a daughter. I think a wife.
I can Google it real quick while you cook.
Juno, Jupiter. Juno is the wife and sister. Okay, there we go. And sister.
Wife and sister?
Yeah,
Does Jupiter rule Alabama?
That's funny. So yeah, Juno is wife and sister, according to some of the pantheons. So Jupiter in June and July. Now, when we get to Virgo, Mercury exalting, you do see it's a little bit of a stretch, but Mercury, Virgo, you do see a phonetic root there.
Not much of a stretch.
Yeah. Now, Libra, Saturn exalts. Now, that's where you see so much. Also, going into Cancer, guys, the political parties, we're going to have to do a whole nother stream on that. The political parties come from the planetary exaltations. Conservatism, Cancer, conservative. Conservative comes from Cancer. What planet rules the Republican Party and conservatism? Jupiter, the elephant, the biggest animal, land animal, most expansive, and perhaps the wisest, the Jupiter of the animals. It's elephant, the elevating planet that elevates, elegant, elephant, right? All these phonetic roots. Who's the donkey? The ass? The mule? Mulek? Mule? Molech? Mole, right? All these donkey, the down key. Saturn is the donkey. Democrat. Demon rat. Democrat. Demolition. Demeter. Underworld. Ugh. Democrat. The donkey. The down key. The low key. Saturn. The constricted animal. It's not the big horse. It's the constricted mule, the donkey.
And they're obsessed with forcing balance.
Yeah. Yep.
They see an unevenness, an injustice.
Yep. And Libra, libertine lifestyle. Libertarians are liberals. They might seem conservative. Libertarians are liberal because they promote libertine. They promote the allowance, to each their own. Laissez-faire, hands off. I won't ask what's in your pipe. You don't ask what's in mine. Right? That's, unfortunately, the spirit of Lucifer and liberalism. And Libra is liberal as per Saturn. Not Venus, Saturn. Saturn, like Merlin was saying, seeks to exercise domination and control with the guise of liberation and balance and equality. All very Libra things. Balance, right? Deliberation, being in negotiation. Saturn. It's Saturn in disguise. And also Lucifer's in Libra. That's why Libra gets the short end of the stick, mythologically speaking. Libra is the fallen one, the false god, the false light, because it's the fall time. It's autumn, when the sun is entombed A-U, tum, tomb. The sun
All
is
is a tomb.
autumned. That's Libra, who's also Eve, because it evens the zodiac, and the evening, the second half of the zodiac. Aries, Adam. Aries, Adam means red and man. Man and red. Aries is red and man. Iron Man, right? All right, focusing on the exaltations. Saturn exalts in Libra. That's where you get the two political parties. Conservative, Cancer, ruled by Jupiter, or Jupiter exalts. In Libra, what's it called? Saturn exalts.
Yep.
So Scorpio, Pluto exalts. No. That's not right. That's not right. But remember, we were talking about Pluto. Pluto rules. Okay, here. Sorry, I got thrown off. Uranus exalts in Scorpio. Remember, we were talking about Uranus and the urine and the anus and all this potty talk. Okay. What about Scorpio? P-U. Scorpio. That's Uranus exalting in Scorpio. Scorpio rules the excretory system. Scorpio rules defecation. Some would say urination. Scorpio rules the part of the body that you use the bathroom with. It rules going to the bathroom. Okay. Now, plumbers are ruled by Pluto also. Plumber, right? They go down and deep. So Scorpio and Pisces have a lot in common through Pluto. We're going to get to that in a sec, Pisces. But Uranus exalting in Scorpio, you see the word urine in Uranus and P in Scorpio. And Scorpio's got a whole lot to do with the toilet and those parts of the body. I won't state that in case anymore. I think it's case closed. You guys go look into it more if you want. But Uranus exalting in Scorpio. Scorpio rules talent. Talent, like the talons of the raptor. Scorpio is the eagle or the hawk.
Yep.
The raptor. Now, Scorpio is very diligent. Scorpio can be very genius too. To me, the smartest signs of the zodiac are most intelligent, Gemini. Most talented, sharp, Scorpio. Most knowledgeable or genius, Aquarius. Virgo is the most educated or studied. Yeah. But Scorpio is sharp, razor sharp, very diligent, and they can be very talented. They can be gifted, born with like an obsession or a very dominating talent that dominates their direction in life, right? And I think they get a lot of that from Uranus, this spark of genius, the thunderbolt of like obsession or creativity or eccentricity. Sagittarius rules eccentricity a little bit, but Scorpio rules obsession. The obs root is a Scorpio root. Absurd, obscene, obsessed, obsidian, obsolete, dead. You know, you're done. Obsolete. All those obs words. Obstacles. Okay. Absurd. I don't know if I said that, but
You did.
Did I say obscene?
Yep. And they will
Okay,
definitely
yeah.
overcome those obstacles for sure to get get their target, hit their mark.
Yeah. So Uranus exalting in Scorpio.
Ooh, obsession. Somebody said in chat.
Yeah, I think I said that. Obsessed.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Obsession.
Yeah.
Sagittarius, just one ruler, pretty straightforward. Capricorn, Mars. Okay. People say Mars, Mars rules the head, or Aries rules the head. So Capricorn, you see the word cap. It's the tippity top, right? Mars kind of links those two, Aries and Capricorn. Also, Mars rules pricks, like spikes, thorns, pointy, sharp, spiky things. Cap, prick, corn. Now, corn is one way you could say corn, right? Because Capricorn rules the harvest and grains and cereals and things like that. But it also, Mars rules horns. So cap, prick, horn. All martial words. Cap, prick, horn. Right. And when I think of cap, I actually think of a red cap almost always. Right. When someone says cap, I don't think of a blue cap or a black cap. I think of a red cap, like a fez or a Phrygian cap, or like a, yeah, or MAGA hat, right?
There you
The
go.
red hat. So cap, Rick Corn, very Mars coded, and not many people think about that or talk about that. Aquarius, some say that Mercury exalts in Aquarius, but it's not a big, huge, consensus or anything. It's just I see it on some charts because there is a connection between Mercury and Aquarius, but I don't think rulers or exaltation is the best way to explain it. Pisces, ruled by Neptune, co-ruled, like we were saying. I believe Pluto exalts in Pisces. Now, how can we make sense of this? Well, it's the second sign that death shows up in. So you have sudden death or kind of like insidious, like murder or death in Scorpio. And then you have natural death, death of old age in Pisces. So Pluto's the full end of the cycle. Pluto's the full revolution of this whole cycle. Pluto's the last stage. Sorry, Pisces is the last stage before rebirth into Aries, the infant, the inferno, infant, right? You see that Ignatius root word, inferno, infant, right? The baby, the fiery birth of Aries. Pisces is everything right before that. It's kind of cold. Things are, very old age, Pisces. Now, Pluto rules the depths, like I was saying. And in Scorpio, the two deepest signs of the zodiac, in my mind, are Scorpio and Pisces. They have the most depth and they have the most range, meaning there's so many different types of Scorpios and there's so many different types of Pisces. Whereas with Aries, there's only one type of Aries. If you're an Aries man, there's only one type, really. Generally, okay. Taurus, same thing. Gemini, same thing. I can guess Aries and Taurus pretty easy. Not always, but they're the easiest to guess, I think. Gemini, Cancer, Leo, still pretty easy. Virgo, a little harder to guess. Once you get to Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, it's doable. Capricorn, I can guess a lot. Aquarius and Pisces, though, it's like impossible to guess. So hard for me to pick out Aquarius and Pisces because they seem to encompass a lot of the signs that came before them and they have a lot of depth to them. But the two key points of depth I see are Scorpio and Pisces. They have a lot of range, a lot of depth. And I think that has to do with Pluto pushing the downward boundary very, very low to the underworld. So Scorpio has access to the underworld. That's why we see words like scrying, right? Scavenging, some other words.
Screens. You can look through a screen.
Have to do with looking down or penetrating down into the underworld. But also Pisces. Remember I was talking about plumbers. Okay, plumber shares the same root as Pluto. but also plunger, to plunge down, right? And Pluto rules explosions too. You see that plo root in it, explosion. Pisces has an explosiveness to it, believe it or not. Okay. Johnny Knoxville is a Pisces. There's a certain type of Pisces that is explosive and Plutonian in my mind. Okay, Kurt Cobain, pretty sensitive, conventional Pisces, also known for blowing his head off, right? Or at least being framed for blowing his head off. His girlfriend probably did it. Courtney Love probably did it. But basically, he's known for an explosive event. He's known for, something like that. So there is a little bit of violence, and Pisces have some of the fiercest tempers too. Once they actually boil up and explode, it's like, a lot. And I see an explosion there. So Pisces, I think, has a lot to do with Pluto. And Pluto, I believe, exalts in Pisces. And you see words like, when you're in the grave, you see words like having to do with grave digging, like loot, plunder, right? These are Pluto words. Plumber, plunder, Pluto. So yeah, all of that's kind of, you're dead, you're in a graveyard. That's all very Pisces. So what do you think, Merlin? Can you speak to any Plutonian links you see with Pisces?
100%. So I would say that, like you were saying, Pisces has a bit of an explosive element occasionally, because I would argue that Pisces rules splashes. And how do you make a splash? By disturbing the water. And then also, when it comes to exaltations, right? Like if the domiciles really reflect the nature of the planets, and the exaltations are what they need, right? So to touch on Uranus and then and then Pluto, if Uranus rules Aquarian genius, what does a genius need more than anything? They need focus and drive. And perhaps Scorpio is strongly associated with focus. Did you want to add on to that?
No,
Sorry. Okay, gotcha.
just agreeing.
Gotcha. And then when it comes to Pisces, right? Like you said that Pisceans can have quite the temper, which is true. And I would attribute that to its proximity to Aries, and perhaps their Mercury could often be in Aries and form bad aspects and have a short fuse in some ways. But again, that can bubble up. But most Pisceans I know, I would describe them as one of the nicer signs of the zodiac. Pisces people are very, very, very friendly. And if Pluto is that, harsher edge of Mars, it really needs that Piscean friendliness to make it not so despicable, essentially. And, it probably does really well in Pisces. Sadly, we won't be there for another 30 years or 20 something years till we're in Pisces, Pluto. So, or maybe more, whatever. But, and then interestingly too, guys, like if you look at the exaltations of these outer planets, right? Longo was mentioning earlier how they're all associated with the depths, the depths of this, the depths of that. And they all exalt in water signs, forming that grand water trine of these outer planets. So it's an incredible connection there, in my opinion.
You just proved it.
Dang, I set out the opposite of what I intended to. No, don't worry, I'll disprove it even stronger.
That's amazing. You added on to the pile of evidence that so all the outer, I never noticed that. That's genius. Thank you. Yes, all of the outer planets exalt in water signs. That makes a lot of sense, and it is fitting. Yeah. Totally. So what else? What else needs to be said about the exaltations? I think we talked about most of them.
Do you have time to talk about the falls?
Okay, here's another good one.
Yeah, sure.
Pisces starts in February. Okay. February, March. What do we see in February? February is named for February. February, depends who you ask. Okay. Pluto and February might have a lot in common. Pluto rules infectious diseases and pandemics and things like that. That's what February rules. So Pluto and February are two separate gods, but they might have a lot in common, and February might be another way of saying Pluto or representing Pluto in the zodiac in the year. So, yeah, fever. You get the word fever from February.
There you go.
By the way. Thank you, Esperanza. So, yeah, that's most of them, and we will do another episode on phonetics on their own. But let's see. What do we want to do next? Or is there anything we left out today?
The falls, if we wanted to go over those.
Yeah, we'll just have to
eventually.
do another episode
Okay.
for the falls and debilitations.
We could just pick up where we left off, honestly. If we, we'll figure it out, but yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I had this randomly, if you wanted to. I've got the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, if you want to talk about the fall, but that's we could just do a different week. But yeah, when it comes to domiciles and exaltations, I think we hit it all pretty decently. Is there anything in the chat that you guys think that we like really missed or overlooked in any way? Did we commit any crimes of omission?
We got one more super chat. But okay, Proverbs chapter 5, 4 through verse 4 through 5. But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. Yeah, good point. So hell, heel. Hades is hell. And hell is the heel. Pluto rules the feet. Sorry, Pisces rules the feet. Pluto's hell, the underworld, as far down as you can go. And Pisces is the feet, as far down as you can go. Right? And Pisces rules the feet. The feet. The feet. Right? Defeat is to sink all the way down. Right? Defeat. So, yeah, that's a great excerpt there. Some good scripture. Pretty relevant.
Somebody... oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Somebody asked, can we talk about the houses at some point? That'll be coming down the pipeline. Absolutely, guys. We're going to crush everything.
Totally. We're also going to do an episode on the runes. I kind of want to do that next because that's exciting.
I'm down. I love that.
But that's kind of obscure. Let's see. What will we do next? Well, we'll think about it. We'll post it. But so I know I already asked you, but anything you want to say before we close up?
Sure. I guess one thing that we didn't quite... I mean, we mentioned it a bit, but if you look at where these outer planets rule, it starts at the beginning of the winter months and ends at the end of the winter months. So just like a quick thing for astrology, guys, you got your 7 summer months, your Aries through Libra, and then the sun falls, Scorpio stings the sun, and the winter months begin. So all of the outer planets rule once the sun has fallen, and you can only understand that once you have knowledge of both domiciles and exaltations. So you can see here, the sun falls like this. The fall is opposite the exaltation, so the sun falls in Libra, and then boom, we have the rulerships of those outer planets. And again, the contrast, guys, of light and dark is a very important thing to grasp for astrology, my humble opinion. But I mean, yeah, I think we hit a lot, man. I think we hit a lot.
Chill, yeah. Now, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you go subscribe to my secondary channel, This is like more astrology focused, non-Florida stuff. Yeah, all these videos are going to be archived. All the Casting Couch astrology videos are going to be on Dr. Narco Longo. So this is my other YouTube channel. If you're already subscribed to Old World Florida, if you want to go subscribe, if you want to support me, go subscribe to my other channel. You know me, I don't ask for subscriptions on Old World Florida, but I'd like to beef up the Dr. Narco Longo channel, just in case anything happens to Old World Florida and for things non-Florida related or less Florida related. Yeah, I'll post the link. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
Apparently, we didn't discuss Venus's exaltation. That's what a few people in the chat are saying. Can you guys confirm or deny that?
Yeah, we didn't. No, we didn't.
So
Venus exalts in Pisces. Crap. How did we forget that?
I mentioned it a bit when I mentioned the sextile between Venus and Capricorn, but it was kind of the original spiel of kind of the overview of everything. We didn't get into it in depth.
Yeah. So Venus exalts in Pisces. And how can we see that? You know, Pisces is very romantic. Pisces rules love in some ways. Pisces rules the Vesica Pisces, which is the two circles coming together. You see that in, you know, the breasts, the buttocks, very feminine, you know, thing. And Venus is all about femininity, beauty, seduction too. Pisces, Venus, who is Aphrodite, was born in the seashell on the coast, in the cove, you know, or in the threshold between sea and land, water and land. So born in a shell, that's very Piscean, very oceanic. Anything else you want to say? Venus exalting in Pisces.
This is a woman who said this in chat, so it's not me being a weirdo, but they said, imagine Marilyn Monroe taking a bath, Venus exalting in Pisces. And there is something about, like, you know, a beautiful woman, you know, in water. It definitely accentuates female beauty. You know, some freaks of nature, you know, use baby oil to lotion up and give the illusion of water. But, you know, like, water does add to beauty, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Venus exalting in Pisces. How else do we see that?
Well,
the heart sign is also kind of a Vesica Pisces a little bit. Yeah, what were we gonna say?
Oh, no, I was just gonna reiterate the point that it's the lesser benefic exalting in the domicile of the greater benefic. You know, Jupiter rules it. And as far as the outer planets go, Neptune, I would argue, is the more benefic outer planet. Would you agree with that? And then, you know, Uranus is a bit neutral, just like Mercury. And then Pluto is more malefic, just like Mars. And again, that does, you know, help relate back to that stuff. So, you know, it's so if Neptune is the outer benefic, Venus is the lesser benefic, and Jupiter is the greater benefic, then all of that comes together in Pisces. And, you know, Pisces being the finale, like, it's the end of life, it's the end of the road, and, like, God willing, hopefully we all have a good life. You know what I mean? Like, life is meant to be good, it's meant to be enjoyed. So there's a lot to be said there for rejoicing in the finale, you know, on to whatever's next. You know, this show's over, on to what's next. And it's just such a benefic sign, which is why, you know, Pisceans are really just such nice people. They really are.
Yeah, Pisces are very nice, almost to a fault.
Definitely to a fault. They're pushovers. Pussies.
Pushover.
Pacifists.
Passive, exactly.
Yeah, bro. I got that from you. You got it.
Guys, go subscribe to Dr. Narco Longo YouTube channel. And then while you're on YouTube, go subscribe to, let's see, I think we might have to search Wise Wizard.
Wise Wizard Merlin, yeah.
go subscribe to Merlin at Wise Wizard Merlin. I'm going to drop that in the chat. That's in the chat. You can click on that as a link. Go subscribe to him. Tropical astrology. Lots of good stuff on here.
Yeah, if there's one video that like actually matters, it's the one you linked not long ago, linked it in his channel. It's the why the planets go retrograde. As far as I'm aware, it's unique astrological research. No one else has ever talked about it. I find it to be undeniably true. It's the deepest retrogression gravy I could possibly give.
And you're a geocentric astrologer. So this is not PSYOP NASA astrology. This is real man, rooted in tradition, ancient tradition, tropical astrology, the one true science of light.
God's holy astrology, God's holiest science, as Santos would say, you know? Yeah.
Well, Shell, yeah, man. That does it for tonight. We talked about the rulerships. We talked about the exaltations. We didn't get to the falls or debilitations, but that's okay. We'll revisit that. We'll get to that eventually. But everyone, have a good night. Make sure you go subscribe to us. And that's it, I think.
Go look at the stars, guys. Use your own eyeballs. Get out there and look at it, bro.
Yep. Everyone, have a good night.
Yep. Wild Indian, yeah.
Hey, V, line them up.
I'm a wild Indian, you know I go crazy. Ain't really Indian, that boy fugazi. I just keep it player, you can never play me. You got an ass so fat, girl, let's make a baby. And another one. Then I'm back to the trap, I'm trying to double some. She a bad woke chick and I love her tongue. We some jurisdiction boys, we some one-on-ones. Look, don't compare me to no Martin dog, I'm like Malcolm X. Die by our freedom, we'll leave a crack and stretch. Round of applause, boy, you know we clapping text. Chucky dog, child's play, yeah, nigga, that's what's next. Open up the cans just like Arizona. Pull up masked up like we got the Rona. We set up jurisdictions when we buy the corner. How you claiming that's your hood and you not the owner? Be the B, I just pulled up in the need for speed. Free the land, tell the colonizers that they need to leave. Wild Indian up in my veins, you know how we bleed. You ain't gotta lie about who we is, dog, just keep it G. We at war, we can't keep the peace. Since we at war, gotta keep the peace. Whack a cone, then I meditate. Should I need to breathe? Keep a Olmec head when we slide, dog, cause we the shit.
Like my niggas said, bitch, we the shit. I can't keep the peace. If it pop off, then I want a piece. I'm just on release. I'm in go mode, motherfuck the thief. In these streets like EBT, when we at war, make peace with me. I don't give a damn, understand. Fuck who stole this land, white or black or tan. Understand, it's fuck who stole this land. Might have seen me get little buddy these hands. He wasn't no abo man. A lot of these dudes is Sambo man. They full of shit like my ammo can. What they call an N-word out the wrong mouth, that's an ambulance. Wild Indian, get it in advance, or you can post date it. Ask around, I'm the most hated. Straight sacred, they stole acreage. Yo, ape shit, show ain't shit. It won't be televised, I don't tape shit.
Be the B, I just pulled up in the need for speed. Free the land, tell the colonizers that they need to leave. Wild Indian up in my veins, you know how we bleed. You ain't gotta lie about who we is, dog, just keep it G. We at war, we can't keep the peace. Since we at war, gotta keep the peace. Whack a cone, then I meditate. Should I need to breathe? Keep a Olmec head when we slide, dog, cause we the shit.